Welcome to the Achievement in Sales Virtual Mentoring Series. Today's installment is on developing relationships. Our speakers today are myself, Lynn, and my co-founder of Petite to Queen, Tina Olson. We're going to get started with intentions. And Tina, if it's all right with you, I'll kick this off.
Sounds good, Lynn.
Okay. So, when you're talking about building and developing relationships, I want to start with the fact that most people don't like being sold to. And in fact, when you take a hard sales approach, you will lose the bulk of your prospects. And the real kicker is not only do you lose them in the present, but you've turned them off for the future. The flip side of this is that most people are interested in or looking for mutually beneficial relationships. The intentions behind professional sales is to create, nurture, and develop long-term relationships. And to create this relational capital, you begin with questions that demonstrate your worthy intent. What is your passion? What are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing when you're not working? And where do you see yourself 3 years from today? These are all questions that you can use when you're meeting with a new client or prospect or wanting to further that development. You're building your authenticity and a dialogue. So Tina, what are your thoughts on intentions for developing relationships?
Well, I like much of what you said, Lynn. Strong relationships ultimately drive and grow sales and allow those sales to be sustainable and the relationships to continue to grow. But I would agree, intentions are absolutely key. And the intention of getting to know your prospective client and their company and wanting to assist them in achieving their goals. It's all part of the discovery process, which is what you were alluding to there, Lynn, about asking the right questions. And it's a give and take. It really should be a conversation. There shouldn't be pressure. This isn't the time when you're first meeting someone to put pressure on them. You want to just have a nice give and take conversation and have the presence of mind to be present and listen. This is not the time for us to be presenting to others. This is the time for us to really stop and learn and have a conversation. And in that way, you'll be able to differentiate yourself. And I have something I've just coined: be kind, don't drive. Lynn, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, that sounds good. So,
well, that could actually be used in a number of places, couldn't it? Be kind, don't drive.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so Tina, you want to take us through, our next slide? Is it a match?
Sure. So is it a match? So you've had a conversation, you've started to do some discovery here, but first and foremost, remember, do your homework. Find out as much as you can with social media, LinkedIn, all of the various things that are Google, all of the various media that's available for you to find out about not only the person with whom you're meeting, but also the company and other people that are there within the company. Do your homework, and by doing your homework, that will assist you in developing a rapport, right? And during that rapport, again, as I said, listen, be responsive, have a conversation, listen, check yourself. I think it's really important to check your internal feeling about this. You feel that you've made a connection here? Do you feel that there are mutual interests? Do you have a mutual goal here? So I think these are all questions that you're asking yourself, but again, listen, build a rapport, and I think if you consider the fact that your ultimate goal, forget about the sale. Yeah, we all want the sale, but the ultimate goal is to develop this relationship and create an advocate for the long term. Lynn, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the strength behind building relational capital, which is what this is all about, developing relationships, is the discovery process, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
You learn about your clients' goals, their passions, and their struggles. And then you apply that knowledge to their needs to provide a mutually beneficial solution. So you solve their problem, you get a sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you learn through this process that your product or service is not a good fit, perhaps you can provide a referral or recommendation. During the process, you have established your integrity, your authenticity, and your credibility. And when you give them that information that they need, you know, you're creating a new partner, a connection that you can access in the future. So that's part of why this is so important. It's not just to close that immediate sale. It's really long term.
Agreed. And while companies on the outside may seem to be aligned, this may look like a great company that would be a great match with your company. It always comes down to people, right? And you want to align with the right people, and you want to be able to your point, Lynn, if it's not a good fit at this particular time with this individual, at least you've met someone new. Develop a relationship. It's so key in developing your network.
Agreed. So let's move to next steps, and I will take the next steps. And this is really about building out consensus. And you identify the purpose, you understand the role of the stakeholders, you recognize situational factors that will impact the progress. So this could be, if you're selling to a manufacturer, they could be having a new equipment installation that in one of their major facilities that's going to disrupt their standard operating procedures. And that could impact your process and the progress of the sale. So you want to make sure you're establishing a schedule for frequent discussions, requesting open feedback. And this was the give and take that Tina's been talking about. You absolutely need to be willing to receive that feedback and to process that and take action on it. You know, at the end, all of this is working towards driving that engagement and staying relevant. You have a vision, and you need to help others see the vision. Tina, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I like that. Once again, do your homework. Make sure that things are staying aligned. Communication is so important. And really, it's important not to always push for a sale. Have a conversation. Learn more about what's happening within the company. Always bring something new to the conversation, right? Always bring something new, whether you've heard that something something about their company or something in the industry. Bring something new to the conversation and create measurable outcomes. Whether it be by phone or meeting for coffee or having a tour or sharing information about other company, what's going on in the industry. Create that interest, create that buzz, and also remember to ask for feedback. There's a difference between having a satisfied client and a loyal client. And relationships is the differentiator right there. Lynn, do you have anything to add?
No, that ties it up nicely. So why don't you take the lead here and talk about nurturing the relationships?
Speaking about nurturing, yeah. Speaking about nurturing, again, communication. Obviously, communication is key. And continue to do your homework. You don't just do your homework once, you continue to do your homework. As you're developing the relationship, you're learning more about your client, you're learning more about the company. You want to present yourself as a subject matter expert or an industry expert. So you're providing great information that they can use. that could be competitive information. Again, that could be information about their company. Maybe you read something about a promotion that took place somewhere within the company. Show that you're actively interested about their company and their industry and in helping them. Once established and you have that trust, then you're also look to start branching as you're nurturing these relationships. Look to start meeting other folks within that company. Start to spread out and ask to meet certain people or ask to be introduced to certain additional contacts within. It's as appropriate. You don't just want to walk in and say, well, now I know you, Sally, so hey, can you introduce me over here to Joe? No, yeah, that's not quite the way that it goes. But if you are in fact doing a great job in nurturing your relationships, it's just going to be a natural progression that you'll start meeting people in different departments and expanding that relationship. Lynn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another key thing to keep in mind here is this is where you need to embrace the concept of flexing. If you haven't heard of that, flexing is where you adjust your style to work better with another person's style. And you're learning to recognize and adapt to fit your client's style. And doing that will have a profound impact as you nurture the relational capital that you have built and that you're continuing to build out. Because this is it's a long, never-ending process, right, Tina?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And you're actively growing the depth and breadth of your relationship. So that would be my tip here.
I like that. I like that. Did you want to talk about boundaries?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about boundaries next. And this is where, when you've built your relational capital, which I keep talking about, and you've done that with credibility, integrity, and authenticity, you must also be mindful of professional boundaries. And I do mean must. In essence, you're building your personal brand, and it's vital that you maintain your focus and you filter what you communicate. So while you want your clients to connect with you and who you are, a really good rule to follow, that I believe is a good rule to follow, is to keep your personal life separate. So think to speak. So think first, then add to the dialogue. So, you might want to put that in bold letters and put it right in front of your phone. Think to speak. And because you have to remember, your client's perception is everything. And I'm going to have one more further note of caution, and that is that negativity inspires no one. And so that's not something you want to communicate to your client. Always be professional. And Tina, I know you have some real strong opinions on boundaries, so this would be great for you to chime in here.
I was going to say business is business, friendship is friendship. Then they are completely different. It's a very thin line between them, but never presume that because you have, or you feel that you have, a good relationship, a strong relationship with your client, that's business. That's not your friend. And to Lynn's point, not bringing in your personal history or your personal troubles or personal stories that may or not be aligned here. Business is business, and it's possible. It is absolutely possible to have a strong personal business relationship, but that does not translate to a strong personal friendship. Yes, once in a great while, it takes both people working on it to realize that there's the friendship side and there's the work side. I know very few people that can pull that off. I think it's helpful to keep in mind intentions and how your interactions will reflect back upon your client. Because at the end of the day, it's how your conversations, how your communications, how your product or services are allowing your client to maximize their visibility within their company and their success, ultimately their success. But my biggest takeaway here is never presume that that you have a friend in business. They're two separate aisles. Lynn, would you like to clarify any of that, or was I strong enough? That's because
and it is.
I'm showing. I'm going down the runway here. I'm saying there are two different lines.
It is a really sticky approach, and of course, so much about with business. It's business. You don't take it personally, and I have always been one that I have tended many times to actually form long-term friendships with individuals that I've done business with. Not always. But it's just one of those things that just through the conversations we end up discovering we have an awful lot in common. And you're right. I mean, that can be a tricky transition, and sometimes it's just a natural that they leave their current position. They're no longer in a position where we're interacting, and the relationship transitions then to a friendship rather than a business relationship. But it's absolutely something to keep in mind in sales, and to be very aware and to filter your conversation accordingly.
And I think it goes back to our first comments. Our first slide was about intentions.
Right.
The intention here is to develop a business relationship. Something falls outside of that. That's just that's that's icing on the cake, for lack of a better term. But that's terrific. If you find someone that you've developed a strong business relationship with, they've become an advocate, and you know that you have other things in common, that's great. But at the end of the day, always remember they are your client for as long as they're at their current position.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that, I hope we've given you a high level discussion here to be mindful and be aware of when you're developing relationships. We would like to thank all of our members and guests who joined us for this installment of Achievement in Sales Virtual Mentoring Series, and for being part of the dialogue at Petite to Queen. If you have a question or would like to suggest a topic for discussion, please email us at jointheconversation@petitetoqueen.com.